Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Apurv here, and that's Samir for you. First of all, thank you for making it. It's been I think, it's a pleasure to host this today overall. So I think I'm going to quickly get to the topic, which is strategies to conquer omni-channel paradox, building customer-centric value. And I think nobody better than Reliance Retail to kind of come in to momentum to let us know how it's going in. So Samir, first question to you, right? Like, what do you exactly do at Reliance Retail?
So, I was kind of nicely placed at Amazon doing what I was doing, growing the revenue generation business for Amazon. And that's when Reliance kind of approached me and asked me to build their online marketplace. And I joined them to kind of build that marketplace. And then obviously we pivoted to making sure that the marketplace is built on JioMart. So JioMart was setup that Reliance did back in 2020 when the pandemic hit us to service all the essential requirements for the customers in the country, right? And that's how JioMart grew. But then eventually we took a decision to combine, and JioMart was built on a platform for servicing the customers through the offline initiatives that we already had as Reliance, whether it's grocery, fashion, but grocery took prominence because of the essential requirements during the pandemic. And then we kind of took JioMart up and decided to kind of build the overall horizontal marketplace on JioMart. So beyond grocery, we also started listing fashion, consumer electronics, and general merchandise as well. So as of Diwali of 2022, we actually pivoted on building JioMart as a horizontal marketplace where you will get everything under the sun. From the owned and operated businesses of Reliance, as well as getting listings out of third-party sellers to sell on this platform, right? So that's what we are doing as a leadership team within the Reliance Retail ecosystem, is building JioMart as a horizontal marketplace to service the needs of the seller ecosystem as well as the customer ecosystem in the country.
Understood. Thank you for answering that. How does this whole offline retail piece that you're talking about, right? Like, which is Reliance Retail and then JioMart sit together in the overall sort of functionality of things?
See, Reliance has been a veteran and they have built this offline retail ecosystem for the last 15 odd years, right? They actually started even after the big bazaars and the malls were in the ecosystem. And now, if you look at it, they are by far the number one when it comes to offline retail with presence across genres, right? Whether it's grocery, digital with Reliance Digital, fashion with Trends, and now Azote. What we are trying to do at JioMart is get all this together to service the online consumers, right, more closely. Not only that, we are also trying to figure a way out to service these customers at their doorsteps with tie-ups with, say, the kiranas in our country, because our country is very vast, right? It's diverse, vast. And to reach out to the nook and corner of the country, we need to make sure that the ecosystem that exists in the country is kind of tapped. And while Reliance has its presence with almost 16, 17,000 stores across the country, but that's not enough to reach out to each and every pin code in the country. And that's where the step up to go into tie-ups with kiranas, open up dark stores, open up warehouses so that the online customers who order online and expect the delivery to happen maybe the same day or the second day is kind of serviced better. That's what JioMart is going to do.
Understood. And another quick one is, what do you think are top 3, 4 sort of categories which on JioMart are exceedingly doing well as per you today?
See, let me answer that in two ways, right? One is the online e-commerce.
Right.
Online e-commerce, there are two categories for two different purposes.
Right.
One is customer acquisition and retention, which is mainly through grocery and fashion.
Understood.
Right? Where people come to experiment on your platform because it's a low ticket value item.
Right.
It doesn't take a lot of thinking to buy an apparel or a grocery item. So a lot of customer acquisition and retention happens through these categories. The GMV, which is the gross merchandise value, happens through high involvement categories like consumer electronics, mobile phones. So if you talk about the Amazons, Flipkarts of the world, the GMV is driven by consumer electronics and mobile phones. The customer retention and acquisition happens through fashion and grocery. So they both play unique roles. Now, what these platforms have done is over the period of the last 10, 15 years of their existence has built a very good kind of engagement mechanism between these both.
Understood.
So they sell mobile phones to make sure that they earn revenue, and they uh, sell grocery and fashion to make sure that the customers come back every now and then. Because a mobile phone you will buy maybe once or twice a year, but a grocery you will buy every week or every couple of weeks. So that's how the cycle happens. What JioMart has done is during the pandemic made sure that they do the customer acquisition by way of having grocery kind of listed on the platform. And now, after the pandemic, we are making sure that we list all the other items to also build that long chain of the revenue that comes with it, right? So that's what we are doing now.
Understood. And, in terms of this whole piece that you're mentioning, right, the amount of categories that you have, online is a different story, offline is a different story, while the CX and the DX are connected, consumer experience, and so on and so forth. How is the back-end supply chain aligned? Because this is quite a big task, right? Like there's so many products, so many subcategories. How do you go about doing this, right? And what's different that you think Reliance Retail as an organization is doing in this side of things?
See, supply chain is a very, very vast topic, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to offline, it is easier because you're walking into the store, you're ordering an item, and it is supposed to be delivered within that ecosystem, within that space, within that pin code. Online, it is completely different. Online, I will have my stock placed out of Bhivandi warehouse, but my order might come from, say, Bangalore, and I might not have my stock placed in Bangalore. So I'll have to make sure that I transport that from my Bhivandi warehouse to Bangalore. That's the problem a lot of e-commerce only players or online only players face. It is easier for us because we have a network of our stores where physical products are available, as well as there are stores or dark stores as we call it, where there are products available you can't walk in. So then we can support the length and breadth of the country. Currently JioMart services almost 19,000 pin codes in the country, right? So that's what helps us. But our country still is reeling behind when it comes to the overall logistics ecosystem, right?
Right.
You would have heard Mr. Gadkari say that, it's almost 16% of the GDP, and we need to get down to as low as 9-10%. They are, launching something called as Gati program and stuff like that, which is going to help us.
Right.
But right now, to reach out to the nooks and corners of the country is tough.
Understood.
Because our country is vast, we have small towns, villages, and for you to kind of set up stores everywhere is impossible. For you to kind of have dark stores there is impossible.
Yeah.
So what organizations like JioMart or Amazon are doing is identifying certain small shops, mom and pops or kiranas over there, and they are using them in two ways, right? One is to get the stocks, stocked in their shops.
Right.
So when the order comes, the chotus in their shops kind of goes and delivers it.
Wow.
And the second is the delivery mechanism, right? If there is a delivery that is happening within that pin code, we use them to get their products which are stocked on their shops, and they might have bought it to kind of sell it when somebody walks in, also to deliver it to the JioMart customer or an Amazon customer. So that's how we are working around with the ecosystem. But I think with the government's initiatives on logistics, plus the kind of logistics companies that are coming up, plus the initiatives that these marketplaces are taking, I think in the future we will solve this problem. But currently, logistics is an issue.
I love this whole piece that you're mentioning, how kiranas are a partner than a competition, right? There's been a huge battle between modern trade and kiranas for a while. Kiranas feeling that, modern trade is eating away out of them and vice versa. But I love the way how you're integrating all of this. And absolutely. Last one, and then we'll jump back to e-commerce and everything else, is around this whole angle of tier 2 cities, right? How's that shaping up, right? Like I know tier 1s, we all know how tier 1, we live in tier 1, so we know what is happening. What's the whole tier 2 story for Reliance and JioMart?
See, again, what happens is that there are two concepts to it. Most of the revenue happens from metros.
Right.
Because they are the high net worth purchasers. They purchase high value items, so revenue comes there.
Right.
But the shoppers are coming from non-metros as well, the tier 2s as well. So almost 50% of our shoppers come from there.
Right.
But they usually shop fashion. They usually shop, say, general merchandise. The small ticket size, small value items, maybe it's also because of the income as well as the trust on platforms and stuff like that to buy. So a TV or a fridge will be bought more in metros because they have the trust on the platform. They have worked in multinational companies and they understand that. A lot of fashion is bought there. Now, that's what a lot of companies such as ours are doing, or are making sure that they also start trusting our platform to buy high value items, like consumer electronics, jewelry, for example, right? And things like those. So that's a dichotomy that we face right now. But over a period of time, I believe that as education improves, as trust improves, as our delivery mechanisms improve, as our returns and refunds kind of improve, as our buying methodologies improve, payment methodologies improve, more and more people will start kind of shopping online.
Nice. Taking a step back now, right? And I'm sure you've been asked this question quite a few times. But I'll divide this into pre-pandemic, pandemic, and post-pandemic. How have you seen this whole retail, omni-channel, e-commerce piece play? How has it evolved? Has it even evolved? Or good ways, bad ways, good things, rights and wrongs? What's your take on this?
It has evolved. So pre-pandemic, grocery as a category was very tough to crack. Because I think so there was a habit of calling your kirana or mom and pop and he or she will come and deliver it at your house. So that was a set pattern. So every e-commerce player or a marketplace player in our country had won all categories except grocery. It's still tough.
Right.
But way back before the pandemic, grocery was the toughest category that people wanted to kind of crack. During pandemic, I think because of the fact that people were at home and they couldn't go out, they found this an easier mechanism to kind of order online.
Yep.
And because of that, they realized that, the vegetables or the fruits that I'm getting home are as fresh as what I would get, go out and get. And that's where the trust started building.
Right.
That, okay, I'm getting this and I'm getting this fresh and I can use it. So that slowly the trust started building, and that's why companies like Big Baskets and GeoMarts kind of thrived in that ecosystem. But what happened post-pandemic is because trust had started building, competition started of making sure that who can make it reach faster. Right? Everybody is now at your doorstep. You order and I think that guy is still waiting at your
so
complex.
He's doing 10-15 minutes delivery everywhere.
Exactly. So there is a competition with everybody that I will deliver 1 minute earlier.
Right.
I don't know what the customer is thinking. It's still a maze. But yeah, it's convenient, right? Convenience is one of the biggest factors that has helped online e-commerce kind of grow. So that's what has happened. So I would say pre-pandemic, it was mainly your high-ticket, high-value items which kind of drove online commerce. During pandemic, grocery kind of grew because that's what the convenience factor that came in. And post-pandemic, now everything is selling. And what has happened now is most of the companies have realized that only e-commerce, while e-commerce is growing, but our country is so vast and the challenges that e-commerce has, which I will talk about, an omni presence is very important. That's why if you see, after Walmart's takeover, Flipkart benefited because of Walmart's presence. Amazon has an investment in more. We are the other way around. We are offline first and then online. So we get the benefit of understanding of how offline works and kind of get that into online. And I think that will be the future. Omni has to be the future in a country like India.
Understood. I'm going to connect this with this and we'll come back to this whole Omni, where we want to go deeper.
Yeah.
But just from a pure play retail, whether it be e-commerce or, Omni retail or offline retail, how are we, in your opinion, different from other parts of the world, right? Like, I keep hearing this term, right? What happens in the US happens in the US. India is a different ball game altogether. And you need to think global, but make it for India, right? For the people here. So how different is this?
It's very different, yeah. And I'll start with an anecdote. Amazon, when it came into India in 2011, 2012, they came after a very unsuccessful stint in China.
Okay.
And what they learned there is you cannot have what you have learned in US or Europe completely kind of tied to a country like China and India.
Right.
And because they had the experience of China, they came into India with a completely different mindset of getting what learnings they had in US, but kind of reorganizing to kind of suit it to the Indian ecosystem. Now, some of the examples that I can give you, right? India is a cash-driven economy. Almost 25-30% of the transactions online also cash on delivery. So they had to innovate,
Right.
to make sure that, and they didn't face this issue anywhere else. In India, they came and they realized that, oh, we have to have this also as a payment mechanism. Secondly, logistics, as I said, right? Are 20 to 23,000 pin codes. You have to deliver right from Kanyakumari to kind of Kashmir. How do you do that? How do you kind of cater to that kind of a vast country base or regional base? So they had to innovate on logistics. Third is language. How do you communicate with your audience? You have just 15-20% English speaking audience in the country. What do you do?
Right.
Then your customer service as well as your website had to talk to the audience. Now customer service is still easy,
Right.
because you can have somebody sitting there who speaks Kannada or Tulu or Marathi. But your website was still in English. So how do you communicate with this kind of an audience to make them understand that, oh, I'm talking about a particular product?
Right.
So whatever, for example, if there are videos about your product, if there are, voice notes about your product, they then were kind of regionalized and language became that. So these are some of these issues that e-commerce had, which a lot of these companies, when they came into India, realized that, I have to make sure that I need to treat India differently.
Right.
I need to make sure that I need to put my website which talks to the country. I need to put my payment mechanism which talk to the country. I need to, for example, in US, the categories that built Amazon were different than what in India was. And there was also a government regulation issue.
Right.
In US or Europe, e-commerce companies can buy and sell, right?
Right.
I can go to a Unilever, I can say that I want these many packs of Dove, I can stock it and then I can sell it. In India, you cannot buy and sell. You are a marketplace.
Right.
A Unilever has to be a vendor on your platform for them to sell their goods to a customer. You can just act as a marketplace and maybe have a logistics arm to it to deliver it.
Correct.
So that was another nuance that these companies had to kind of
The
work
reason
around
Amazon
with.
has Cloudtail.
Correct. Amazon had Cloudtail.
Had Cloudtail, yeah.
Now it has changed again because they built Cloudtail with Catamaran, which is Narayan Murthy's venture,
Super.
to buy.
Right.
But now they had to shut because now the government regulation says that you cannot have your third-party sellers and your first-party sellers together on a platform.
Right.
You have to figure a way out to list them together, but have a mechanism where they are not competing with each other, but they are in the single line. So the
Right.
customer has a choice to purchase.
Right.
You can't kind of manipulate it, right? So that's what the government is doing.
So now that we've established, I think, how market is different, we've established, what you do at sort of Reliance Retail, the challenges, some of the challenges and some of these sort of things. Getting further, double-clicking on this omni-channel piece, right? I think omni-channel as a buzzword, specifically in India, is misused in a very sort of different ways, right? In your opinion, right, from what you do and everything, what's really a true omni-channel experience? And, what part of that experience Reliance Jio or Reliance Retail, JioMart or Reliance Retail have sort of been able to carve out for the customer?
What happens in a shopping journey is there are two aspects. One is you research and then you purchase.
Right.
Now, when research has gone through a different stages of evolution, right? First, you used to research in the store and then make a purchase decision because there was no online. When online came, you started researching on platforms like Google. You went and typed on Google what I want to buy, and they gave you options and they gave you opportunities to kind of read about it or view videos about it, and then you can purchase. Now, e-commerce platforms are doing that for you.
Right.
Almost 30-40% of product searches are now happening on e-commerce platforms. In
Wow.
US, it is around 50-60%. So if you want to buy a product, nobody now goes to Google and searches for an Apple phone or an iPhone. They come to Amazon, Flipkart, or JioMart and do that.
So you're saying
What has done
discovery,
that?
sorry to come in between, discovery is online, huh?
Correct. Now
Oh, wow.
discovery is happening online.
Wow.
So there are a lot of people who research online now.
All right.
Does that necessarily mean they buy online as well? Maybe not. In a country like India, they come, they research, but they still want to go and check. Right? For example, I'll give you. If you want to buy a wedding gown,
Right.
you will research a lot,
Right.
but you will still want to go and see and view how you look in it.
Right.
So you are not going to buy that online. Vice versa, you go on an electronic store, you look at a TV, you look at the price online, and you buy online.
Right.
So that's the beauty of Omni.
Right.
It's a marketing tool, according to me.
Okay.
You know, you go to a store, you go to a site, you're researching, you're viewing, you're reviewing, but your purchase decisions are dependent on what you want to do with it, right?
Right.
You would want some products to be bought online, some products to be bought offline.
Right.
And that's why the journey of online is going to be a long journey in India,
Right.
but over a period of time, it will grow as the
Understood.
retail also grows overall, right?
Understood. And, in terms of, now that we established that discovery is happening online, maybe buying is happening online or offline, it could also be the opposite, right? Discovery offline and buying online because of sometimes offers and discounting. All of us, I'm now at stores, actually quickly go and check on my mobile, am I actually getting a cheaper product online versus offline, and where can I do? And we are a price sensitive economy, right? Like that's how our customers think. What I want to ask you is, if a lot of audience here would be from retail and companies and so on and so forth, how do you build a true sort of a Omni or a Omni sort of experience? What does it take, right? Both on the platform side, both on the data side. Just give us some nuances. What goes from a customer experience side, right, which is the marketing front, some of those things.
See, it's very easy to research online because you
Right.
get information on your palm.
Sure.
Right? So you have to build an ecosystem online which gives them all the information about the product.
Sure.
Second is endless aisle. How can you make sure that whatever they want, you give them so much choice? See, in a store, you can't.
Right.
You will have limited choice. In
100%.
online, you will have so much choice. You give them that option of looking at a lot of stuff and making a choice. So online usually is about choice, convenience, and price.
Right.
Third is price, obviously. In a country like India, we are so price sensitive that you give them 10% discount and they will buy on you, apart from others, right? So in that sense, you need to create that ecosystem online to give them that information and leave the choice to them where they want to buy. Second is, if you have both these aspects, online and offline, you can give them a choice to buy online and collect offline as well. So
Sure.
what we do at JioMart is, they can come, they can research online, buy online, and if they want to go and check the product and buy, they can pay, go buy. If they want to cancel it there and then they can, right? So that option is available to them. Third is, if you are in a store, and as you rightly said, if you go and compare prices and all, you should be encouraged to kind of buy from anywhere. Earlier you mentioned that the Kirana stores or the sellers or the retailers would vary of, online becoming, with the kind of discounting, deep discounting they do, they are a threat. I have been in this ecosystem for 9 years now. There is no threat. I don't think so. The business has gone down for a lot of these guys. So I think Omni, in its true sense, is giving a customer a choice to make a research and a purchase decision wherever they want, right? And that's what eventually ONDC is also going to do. That's a separate topic altogether, but that's what it's going to do. Because ONDC will bring everybody, every customer touch point online on one ground and give them an option across platforms.
Understood.
So you come, you have an option across platforms and you purchase. Right?
Understood.
Now on your second part of data, right? Online is the best place to gather data because a lot of information is gathered online in the first place. Everything is connected, right? You have your Facebook account, Insta account, YouTube, Google. All these places have your data. They also know your patterns of consuming content. Online e-commerce players or marketplaces know your pattern of purchasing.
Right.
So when you have this pool of data, you know what this person's behavior is on the ecosystem. And thus then you target them with communication. Offline is more personalized. You're coming there more often. You're visiting that store more often. So they know you so for example, a Kirana store will know you by the name. They will know where you stay. They will know what your purchase patterns are. They will know what toothpaste you kind of buy and stuff like that. If you can get to that level of data of what a Kirana store knows about you, then you have achieved everything, right? Then you know what this customer.
But isn't that a big black hole today?
It is. It is because data also brings in a difficulty of using it the wrong way. What happens. So, for example, I'll give you an example. In the US, you have the choice of saying I don't need to see your communication. So you can say no to advertising, no to notifications, no to a lot of stuff. In India, thankfully for us, it's a black box, but thankfully, the customers or the users in India are more tolerant. They will not want subscription-based models, they will want ad-based models. So they will not pay Netflix the money, but they'll say that you show me ad, I'm okay. We are that kind of a breed, and that's why a lot of communication to Indians is still ad-based. You'll see in IPL, everybody is advertising. In US, they will not. They will say that don't show me ads, show me the match. Right? Absolutely. Even if it's a break, don't show me ads. Right? I'm okay with not seeing ads.
Just to support your nuance, I was reading an article on Spotify, completely different. And their revenues in India versus revenues in US. I think 80 to 90% of revenues in the US come from subscription business and probably 10% advertising business. When it comes to India, it's almost 50-50, 40-50%, 50% actually
no,
comes from advertising. There's a reason, whatever.
So I'm just lesser.
Yeah,
so I'll tell you, for Prime, Prime for the longest time in India said that we will not have ads. But they had the India-New Zealand series.
Right.
I think a couple of months back.
Right.
And they opened advertising for it in India for the first time. Right. So that's how we are.
Right.
We are intrinsically no subscription people. They will not. Any OTT you pick up. Right.
Right.
What Jio Cinema did with IPL.
Right.
Now we are digressing from Omni channel, but since we are on the topic, Jio Cinema, you can watch IPL for free.
Right.
Hotstar lost it because they couldn't go beyond the subscription model. So that's how India is.
Absolutely. Coming to the data point and coming back to where we are, what we have for, in terms of this whole data, right? Like online, offline, kiranas, some of these pieces, right? How hard is it to create a unified sort of user profile, the customer 360 degree? How easy or hard is it to identify, both from a metadata standpoint? If you can throw some light on from your experience at Jio, and what are you doing, right? Like to better this from a technology standpoint?
It's not tough online, at least, because when you come online, you have a registration mechanism that you have to do.
But not everyone's registering, right?
Not everyone registers, but whoever registers, we have their data.
Correct.
People who don't register, we have their buying patterns. Just through IPs and all, we know how their buying patterns are.
Sure.
So that can be used. Now, what we don't do is overuse that. Because once you start overusing that, you get into the realm of bothering the customer.
Right.
And, that's what multinational companies have taught us in terms of how to not over-bombard a customer with your communication and how they... Because otherwise, if you would have observed 3 years back, before this entire data issue came, they used to follow you, right? You go to an Amazon or Flipkart, you go to Facebook, you'll see the same shoe.
Yeah.
You go to Insta, you'll see the same shoe. And customers started kind of complaining on the platform, saying that I've made my decision, why are you kind of bothering me?
Right.
That has changed.
Nice.
Now you don't see that many kind of follow-ups. There still are, but not that many. But to use the data in a very... See, data can be very difficult to use, right? People can use data in different ways. But the worry is the misuse of data.
Right.
And the customer getting bothered. See, customer trust is very difficult to garner.
Right.
Once you lose it, it's very difficult to get it back.
Right.
So people will have to be... Companies will have to be very particular about how to use that customer data.
Super. Couple of... just to... we've understood data as well. Couple of use cases, right? How do you sort of handle via the means of communication, via the means of product, like a couple of use cases or ways in which you deal with customer experience, right? To be honest, it is an experience which is phygital, right? Physical and digital, right? How do you sort of, and how do you like reduce the gap, right? When from a consumer experience, whether by means of communication, platform, I don't know. How do you go about it at what you do?
See, two things here. You have to get your app experience. If you are into a online space, you have to get your app experience fantastic.
Right.
If somebody is coming into your store and if he or she doesn't get what they want, it is your duty to take them there quickly.
Understood.
Right? That's what the store does, right? That you walk into a store, there is a gentleman or a lady standing there taking you, okay, sir, what do you want? Go there, it's available there, right?
Right.
We can't do that way in the online space, but in the online space, you have different channels. People come, almost 50-60% of people will land and search
Right.
what they want. Your search should be so intuitive
Right.
that they search for something and that search should take them to the page or the link that they want to buy. So that experience has to be fantastic.
Right.
Second is the buying experience. They have researched, they come to your page, they want to buy. The buying experience, the payment experience has to be great. If you have some hitches there, they will drop off, right? The last experience is post-buying experience, which is your customer service, as you said, right? If there is an issue, if there are returns. So for example, India is a high return country as well. Almost 20-30% goods are returned, mostly fashion, right? When you return, how do you handle those returns and refunds and stuff like that? Because that becomes a pain point because you've paid money.
Right.
If you don't get the money, people in India have palpitations. कि मेरा पैसा आएगा कि नहीं? Now that is something where you can delight a customer. If you give them refund without questions, they are delighted.
Right.
And customer delight is very important at this stage in the evolution. So what we have done, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example, right? In India, almost 100 million people shop online on a consistent basis, right? While we say the overall audience is around 200 million, but 90 to 100 million shop online. What about the rest, right? They have phones, they use data, and that evolution has happened in the country. How do we reach out to them? So JioMart and WhatsApp have come together. And now you can actually shop through WhatsApp on JioMart.
Nice.
Right? So you have a unique number where you can go, 79770, 79770. I would urge all of you to try. Go there, say hi, you will get the catalog, and you can start shopping on WhatsApp. Now, why we have done that is to go beyond those 150 million and go to the heartlands, where chatting is a mechanism that they use now to communicate. And within that, if we can embed shopping. Obviously,
Nice.
It's a behavior change. It'll take time, but that's the starting point that we are doing. And that's how we are bringing this entire, universe together.
Right. And double clicking on this, right? Overall, we've seen some new stuff come from Chat GPT. I think everybody's hearing this buzzword from. I like smiles everywhere, like, oh, Chat GPT bol diya. But the point is, do you see a sort of a use case for somebody like obviously it's quite premature today I understand, and things might be still being looked at. But do you think there is sort of a use case there as well?
Absolutely. I think any voice help is going to help e-commerce immensely. Because as I said, right, especially in our country, because language is something that is a barrier.
Right.
For a lot of e-commerce or online players, where the predominant mode of communication is in English. And reading Hindi, reading their native language, or putting that entire website in the native language is still tough, right? You can do it for 6-7 languages. You can't cover the entire gamut of.
But have you? Sorry to come in between. But have you done this?
We have done that.
You've done this.
Yeah.
What sort of language?
So we have Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, and Bengali, Marathi.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. And even Amazon has and others have. But voice will just break that barrier, right? If I want to shop tomorrow and if I talk to ChatGPT or whatever platforms that we have, and if I say that I want to buy this, and if that comes, and the entire conversation that I'm typing right now happens through voice, it does most of my work. So yes, it will help.
Double clicking on voice now. Thank you for bringing this in. And just want to understand today from a we've talked about the unification, the experiences, the service, and so on and so forth, right? I want to come to consumer service, right? Like you mentioned that people are buying online, people are buying offline. Tier 1 versus Tier 2 experiences are different. There are small scale sort of products. There are like small SKU or small GMV products, large GMV products, and so on and so forth. In this whole complicated way of buying and pattern, how does service and support work? Like, because, a lot of returns, a lot of cashbacks, money coming back. How complicated is this? And I'm assuming the consumer expectation is quite high. How do you deal with it from a consumer experience standpoint, right? And in this whole challenging environment of sorts.
See, any online company which is into service,
Right.
needs a very, very strong customer service. Yeah.
Right.
Because in India, the mode of communication is still voice. They will call you. While there are other mechanisms like chat, email, WhatsApp, notifications,
What would
but
the
they
share,
still want.
What would the share in your
It's
business?
around 50%.
Oh, wow. It's quite harsh.
50% is still on phone. They will call or they will expect a call, right?
Alright.
And on that call, tempers flare and a lot of things happen. So customer service and the training of customer service of paramount importance. They need to know. And the second thing is, how do you cut the hierarchy there?
Right.
Because when I am calling with my issue to a customer service, and if the customer service person is telling me that I will have to take an approval, that's a problem.
Right.
Right. So what my erstwhile company Amazon had done is they had introduced something called as cut the cord. So no approvals, nothing. If there is in the realm of a customer service associate to take a call on, he or she should do that. Right?
Wow.
If it's a return in a certain gamut, and if you can take a call on, so the customer delight is there.
Right.
Otherwise, what happens, and we have seen that with telecom and banking and all these sectors where you're on the call for ages, even after being on the call, you're not getting your solution. So what these guys have done and innovated with is give the authority to the customer service person to take a call there and then to customer delight. Then we will see how to solve it. So that is very important. And in a country like India, where you're very worried about the money coming back, where are my goods, why is it not delivered, and stuff like that. So there are a lot of problems that happen. So yes, customer service is very important.
Finally, coming to almost the end of this whole conversation, where are we headed, right? Both from a vision or the mission vision goals of JioMart as a platform, as well as the whole Omni retail scene, right? Where are we headed in next 5-10 years? Are we growing as aggressively as we used to? And also linking this with challenges, right? What do you see are challenges while we want to grow in that side or direction or vision?
See, online e-commerce is around $45-50 billion industry in the country. It's slated to be $150 billion in the next 5 years. So, but the percentage contribution to the overall retail is still small. We are at around 5% right now. It's slated to be 10-12%. But there will be definitely growth. And the growth will, according to me, happen across the length and breadth of offline and online. See, there are some people who are only online, but that's a very small audience.
All right.
There are a lot of people who are only offline, and there are a lot of people as well who are in between. They are both online and offline. I think that portion is going to grow.
Right.
The only offline guys will slowly kind of jump into the online-offline bracket,
Right.
where people are buying online as well as offline.
Right.
The only online people will also grow, but that will not grow as significantly as the middle portion will grow. So that's why, according to me, Omni will become very important.
Fair enough.
And JioMart is very well placed in that bracket. With the presence that we have on offline and with the strides that we are taking in online, over a period of the next 2 years, I think so we are slated to become really large in this ecosystem. Across categories, right? With our stores, with our dark stores, with our warehousing presence, and with the expansion plans that we have brands as well, right? Urban Ladder, Zivame, a lot of these brands, NetMeds, all these brands now are Reliance owned and will also be listed on JioMart. So it will become like a super app kind of a thing where you will get everything.
Understood.
That's the plan. And I think so the next 2 years are very, very important for us to kind of scale there and grow.
Understood. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening in. Have a great afternoon.